What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you coming in, tuning in, just getting ready for some NFL football. We got playoffs coming up today, tomorrow, and Monday. Special edition of Sideline to Sideline. Got myself, got Brett, not guarding the 2, he's guarding the 3, rocking the Packers jersey because it's playoff time. It's time for the Packers to, start their road to Santa Clara. I'm obviously rocking my Patriots jersey because it's been a while since I could say my team's in the playoffs, but I'm excited. But before we get into anything, Brett, how are you doing today?
Oh, I am doing great. I'm excited for a good day of football. Got 2 good games today and another 3 tomorrow. It doesn't get any better than that. So, let's get it.
Right, exactly. How do you feel about Saturday football? Well, actually, Monday Night Football. I've seen some people talk about they rather it be like 3 Saturday, 3 Sunday, and not the Monday night game. You have any preference?
No, and honestly, I'm happy about the Monday night game. Like that means I get football for 3 days instead of 2. Like I'm cool with it. I like it.
Right.
So I guess I just don't understand the complaint because in all reality, what's the difference? We're still getting all the games. It's just they decided to spread the one game out onto Monday, which I think is absolutely fine.
Exactly. But yeah, look, before we get into the games, there's a little bit of, I guess, news in terms of the coaching and everything that's going on. So, have like the latest rumors up here. And look at Tennessee. The Tennessee job's open. Jory. Yeah, look, Jory's made it known who she wants, who she doesn't want. And what's going on, Anthony? What's up with Lamar Jackson crying? Oh, yeah. We'll get into Baltimore in a little bit. What's up, Sijin? So the latest report is that Mike McDaniel is going to interview for the head coaching job in Tennessee. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it's actually a fine call. At the end of the day, when you're the Titans, I think getting them in the building and talking to them, even if you don't hire him as a head coach, might be a great way to build a relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that Mike McDaniel could be a great OC. I don't think they're actually going to hire him as the head coach, but I think if you can establish a good relationship with him and maybe call him back like, hey, sorry, we went a different direction, and then offer him the OC job,
Right.
like he'd be a great offensive coordinator, but I think it's at least fine to do your due diligence on Mike McDaniels.
Right. And that's what it seems like Tennessee's doing. And Jory, I see you're in here. What's going on? They also have request interviews with the Chargers for Jesse Minter and with the Rams for Chris Shula. Look, I feel like what we're seeing is Tennessee is they're just putting out feelers. They're trying to get anybody and everybody they can in the building and see, I guess, who stands out. I don't have a problem with Minter or Shula. Those would be interesting hires for sure.
Well, everything beats 3 Jason Garrett reports, so you can only go up from there.
Right. Let's see. All right, so the Ravens, they have requested to interview Bills OC Joe Brady. So I guess there's a chance that Baltimore could go offensive minded. We know that their offense has had some issues past couple of seasons. I guess what are your thoughts on Joe Brady potentially down in Baltimore?
It's intriguing. I think one of the biggest things he's got to do is make sure to get a good defensive coordinator because that was really the biggest problem with the Baltimore Ravens, right? Everybody wanted to look at Todd Monken, and the reality is this was an offense that through the first 3 games was averaging 39 a game and won 1 and 2, and a defense that couldn't, at the end of the day, when it came time to do it, couldn't get stops on Aaron Rodgers and pretty much the backup Steelers offense. So I think that hiring Joe Brady would be great. It's awesome to get a young, fresh mind into the building. But I really think that you got to get the defensive coordinator situation right because you can have the greatest offense ever, but if you have a defense like you did last year, you're going to end up in the same spot this time next year.
Anthony's got a question. Do you have to coach Lamar's style of play?
I think you I think you do. You have to kind of rein it in a little bit, right? And you got to give him some structure. You don't want Lamar to just be running freely because the problem you end up with that is you subject him to a lot of big hits. So I do think that with Lamar, he's a great passer. Actually, I think he's improved a lot in that area. But first instinct a lot of the time is to use his legs. So you give him a coach like Brady who has shown that he can structure a great offense. I think that would that always helps him a ton. Give him a lot of options because you don't want him just running, and then by week 13 he's back on the injured list, and you're running into a situation where you had like what was it 2 years ago when they had Snoop Huntley playing in their playoff game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Anthony's talking about so it's the same play calling as last year. Look, Lamar has a skill set. It is what it is. To try to change the approach that he's going to take, I just feel like that's probably a lost cause at this point. The most you can try to do is probably fortify the offensive line. Because look, we joked, other shows joked about Falele at the guard position and his I don't know his mental lapses that led to rushers getting to Lamar. Like you got to fix the O line, and then hope that with that Lamar feels more comfortable standing back in the pocket. Like you don't want to take away his running ability. Look, I mean Joe Brady would be kind of hypocritical to think he could do that when he has Josh Allen right now, who loves to run certain situations as well. So I guess we're kind of seeing that they're maybe looking to go in that direction. And if they're going to start interviewing, candidates who have dealt with mobile quarterbacks, my prediction could be true. I feel like Cliff Kingsbury could be somebody who's in play down there. And, he dealt with Jaden Daniels. I feel like if you look at the two, there's some similarities there. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's somebody that they call in. What's up, 3 and D? Appreciate that. And obviously, the next OC will also have the dynamic of, how much you put on Lamar. You got Derrick Henry, who is 32, 33 now. How many more years can he defy logic and, fight back against father time? That's going to be interesting for the next head coach. While
Same.
still having some issues on the defense side of the ball as well.
I'm starting to think that Derrick Henry just might be like a modern day Frank Gore. Like that man just be even if he just like starts losing his step, he just still might be very good till he's like almost 40.
Yeah.
Like anytime I think a decline in Derrick Henry's production is coming, he's like, here's another 1,400 yards on your head. So I'm starting to think that even if he does start declining as early as, next year or whatever, I think it'll be a really slow decline.
Right. Yeah, because you do forget Frank Gore played a long time and, was very productive, ran for a lot of yards. Like, yeah, I think Henry could absolutely be in that mold. But we also have an update on the Raiders job search. Kevin Stefanski has interviewed out in Vegas. I guess what would you think about Stefanski as a fit for the Raiders? Who look they have a star running back in Genty, they have a star tight end in Bowers, they have Max Crosby on the defensive side of the ball, they have offensive line issues, and they need a quarterback. You think Stefanski could be a good fit out in Vegas?
Yeah, I think he could be. Say the thing with Stefanski is his teams were always came ready to play seemingly every game. It felt like, even though that some games they got blown out because, quite frankly, there's just a lack of talent on that Cleveland roster, especially on the offensive side of the football. But
Mhm.
it seemed like for the most part, players really came to play for him. He always got the absolute best out of his defense, which the Raiders could absolutely use. That defense was atrocious last year. He's always been a big, proponent of using the run game, which would bode well for Genti. I think
Mhm.
Stefanski in Las Vegas would be a good fit.
And Anthony, I did just see this because I was about to bring that up as well. There's a report from Bleacher Report. Harbaugh is watching Jackson Dart and Cam Ward film. So maybe he's just throwing us off. Maybe he's just doing due diligence and just checking out, I guess, the quarterbacks at each of these spots. And he just happened to start with Dart and Cam. Or maybe that's where he's locked in, New York or Tennessee. If that's the case, where do you feel like Harbaugh fits best?
Uh, yeah, I would think that. So it feels like that it would end up being the New York Giants at that point. I love the idea of Harbaugh in Tennessee, but on top of having Jackson Dart, you also have fun pieces on defense that I think that might be too good for him to resist. Like when you have Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, like the skeleton of a good defense is there. They just got to figure out get some secondary pieces in the room. But also like John Harbaugh, he's normally been a very for the most part of his career, he's always been a solid guy, good at getting the defense coached up, even though this past year it didn't look like it. It struggled under Orr, but I think that if you had to choose between the Titans and Giants, I'd probably go with the Giants. I feel like on top of the offensive, potential with Dart, I feel like the idea of coaching Carter, Burns, and Lawrence would be too rich for him to pass up.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. I'm also saying that, outside of the Giants, the Titans, Dolphins, Falcons, and the Browns will look to try to get Harbaugh in as well. But that is interesting. Jackson Dart and Cam Ward film. Um, Stefanski won coach. Yes, he did. So Stefanski is a good coach. I've said the kind of dysfunction within probably the Cleveland structure is what forced Stefanski out. Like, it's hard for me to believe that there's a coach out there who would have been able to navigate the fact that Deshaun Watson, who they paid a lot of money to, isn't playing football. You know, you spend draft picks on Gabriel and Sanders. Gabriel got his shot early, didn't look that good. Shador is still developing. You're paying a bunch of other guys that aren't on the roster. Like, I don't know how many guys would actually thrive in that kind of situation, but Cleveland decided to move on. We'll see what they decide to do with that here in the next few weeks, months, however long it takes for them to uh, hire a coach. Joe Burrow, the GOAT, let's be honest. Hey,
Joe Burrow, GOAT
for
is a
debate.
choice.
Yeah, multiple choice test. You can write them in. Burrow's at home with Mahomes and Lamar. Yes, yeah. I appreciate that. Fly Eagles fly against the Niners. We'll get into the matchups here in a little bit.
Yeah, I do like Burrow. I definitely think he still has time to enter some very fun conversations, but I think he needs some help from the Bengals, and they got to protect him so he doesn't end up just being the next Andrew Luck.
Yeah, that has to be like they do have some money this offseason. It's got to go to the O line finally. And like I'm not even mad necessarily that defensively they've kind of gone younger on that side. Obviously, you'll need some of those guys to step up their game next season, but I feel like they need to invest a little bit on probably the defensive line. You know,
Eh,
build the
Oh,
trenches and then just let it go.
Kyle, we know the Bengals. Get ready to learn George Pickens, buddy.
I look like obviously until they do it, it is fair to assume they're going to do the exact opposite. They'd probably invest in like a running back and the most random stuff. So like, yeah, I don't know.
I would okay. I wouldn't even mind if they did like what the Bears did last year. Like for example, there's a lot of people that are talking about the Bears moves last year. They're like, oh
Yeah,
well, they overpaid for said offensive lineman. I can't remember the guy they got from the Rams, for example. But they're like, oh, he's overpaid, and I'm like, oh, I think I'd rather see like for example this offseason, even if it's considered an overpay, the Bengals just address this offensive line. I don't think it really matters at the end of the day, like how much you pay for it, but like 90% of your resources, I would say like 80% of your resources have to go aligned, but you still need to preserve like maybe another 20 for the defense.
yeah, um, yeah. Nate, that's pretty funny. uh, yeah, he says
Not
he has to change the
funny.
profile. Look, it was a tough night for Oregon, but Indiana's a wagon right now. What's going on, Reed? As long as we don't have to listen to Jamar Chase. Well,
He's the best
look,
wide
Jamar
receiver in the
Jamar
league.
wasn't a fan of the whole Rudy treatment just because he broke a sack record. Like, come on, what are we stopping the game for? That was
The
yeah,
I will the only the part the example he used was just hilarious. If he would have just said, "Yeah, I didn't like stopping the game," it would have been fine. But this the
yeah.
example he used was hilarious. Like if I catch 10 passes when we stop the game, like no, Jamar, nobody cares if you break the Bengals franchise record for passes caught. I'm shocked you haven't done that already.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, no, I didn't mind him saying that because if he felt a certain way about it, that's cool. I just thought the example he used was just objectively hilarious.
Yeah. I
And
mean, look,
the
yeah,
same with Zach Taylor. Just we're fighting for our lives. Like, brother, you were eliminated 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about?
yeah. But it would be interesting if Jamar broke like the all-time passing touchdowns record. I guess he wouldn't want them to stop the game for him. But we all know if they did, he would relish in it and love the moment. Look, I get it. It has been a frustrating season in Cincinnati. They probably just took it all out on the whole Miles Garrett thing because they knew they weren't going to be in the playoffs or anything. So it's all right.
Oh yeah, like I said, I got no problem feeling upset about them stopping the game, but just the examples both of them used were just the funniest thing ever to me.
Yeah, it is what it is. Uh, don't feel like there's any other real NFL news. So I will say, like, we do know that the All Pro team did come out. We'll wait next week when we get full crew in. We'll discuss it then. Yeah, outside of that, let's go ahead and get into. Well, I mean, the Commanders did make some news. They promoted David Blau to their offensive coordinator. So they filled that position within. Like, I don't know if that's even newsworthy, but if you are a Commanders fan, you have a new OC right now.
I think it's just a great story. Like David Blau, like you don't normally see like players retire and then rise to ranks up that quick. So like most people are kind of going, whatever about the news, but I actually think it's pretty cool because David Blau's like rise through the coaching ranks has been one to behold just how fast he's moving up. Like
Mm-hmm.
going to be a head coach in the next couple of years, maybe. Like that's a pretty wild like rise to the top.
Yeah. And Nate, I completely feel you on that one because I was the one pushing the propaganda that the Bengals were going to make the surprise run and win the division, and then that Jets loss happened. And I was like, yeah, that's probably the end of that. So I get it. And Anthony, who cares? Yeah, I mean, that's just I'm pretty sure it's the Anthony that's the Commanders fan. So there you go from the mouth of a Commanders fan.
Say, don't even worry about it though. Bengal savior Al Golden will carry them to another mediocre season next year.
Yep.
The fact they retained the entire staff is wild to me too. Like, how do you watch last year and you're like, yeah, you guys all good. Don't you worry about it.
Right. Look, I don't know. Like, if you're going to do that, then you better upgrade the roster then, because you're telling us it wasn't the coaching, it was just the players. Well, then go ahead and get the players that are needed. And that's right. Falcons did hire Matt Ryan to be their new president. I mean, I don't know if it's going to have this impact of just going from 8-9 to 9-8, but that's kind of what the Falcons have been past few years. So, hey.
The
But if they were
worst
9-8, they'd be in the playoffs.
say they'd convincingly win the division by 2 games if they were 9-8 next year, probably.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny how bad that division is constantly.
I mean, you just have to hope that Carolina uses this playoff experience and they become better next year. Because I don't need another year of the NFC South the way it was this year. Like, Tampa Bay made it seem like they were the best team in the NFC. Then they weren't and became one of the worst teams in the second half. Carolina showed glimpses, but yeah, that was a rough division to pay attention to.
If the Falcons could just like win games before they get eliminated from playoff contention,
Yeah.
they could pull it off. It's so funny how good they become as soon as there's nothing on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Falcons just might be one of the greatest low stakes team I've ever seen.
Oh, Nate, it's Patriots all day. Oh yeah, because I guess you can't see the number or anything. But yeah, I'm a Patriots fan. I mean, like, that Falcons job, you know, I guess outside of their cap situation, because they are over the cap a little bit. Like, there are pieces to work with down in Atlanta. Problem is, the biggest question is at quarterback, where you have Michael Penix, who you just drafted, is banged up. He's banged up in college. He's banged up again. And then you have Kirk Cousins, who doesn't want to be there, but is a high-priced player on your roster. Like, that'd be the one holdback is, like, what do you do with that position? Because, yeah, Michael Penix is still early in his career, but it's hard to think he's going to hold up and be durable enough to be a franchise quarterback. And you used a high draft pick on him. So are you going to just turn around and do it all again and risk making it a whole circus at that position? Like, I don't understand what they're trying to do.
I don't know. I think the biggest problem with the whole Falcon situation is not only do we not know what they're trying to do, I don't think the Falcons know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Because you don't pay Cousins the money you did just to turn around and draft Penix like immediately and then go, yeah, you remember that like team that was very mediocre? Yeah, we're gonna go all in, trade our first this year to get a pass rusher. And then once again, it turns out that the very mediocre team just wasn't a James Pierce Jr. away from being a competitor. Like, it's just, I think there's pieces there that could make them an intriguing option for a coach next year, but I think as the decision makers can't just figure out a good plan for the future and follow their path, like, I don't think it really matters. Obviously, the first order of business is figuring out the quarterback situation, but you might not be able to figure that out now until 2027 because you don't have a first this year to potentially draft somebody new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Appreciate that,
Love it,
Nate.
Nate. Respect the honesty. Go have fun.
Yeah. Hey, it's your day, man. Enjoy it. Players are smart. Go after Kirk Cousins' agent. That man will get you paid. That is true. Kirk Cousins, for not being, regarded as like a top quarterback any year of his career, the man's making money. And I mean, he does have the soundbite you like that, which will probably be like his legacy. But I feel like he's been solid. He's never been like great or elite quarterback, but he's been solid. But you can make a good career being just a solid player.
That's what I like to tell people. They'll be like, "Oh, this quarterback's only average." I'm like, average in the NFL gets you a long way.
Yeah.
Say, look at Tua, look at Kirk. Like those guys got paid for being average.
Mm-hmm. Seidman says he's only here so he doesn't get fined because he's the one seed they have to buy. But I mean, Seidman, I'm sure there's certain matchups you would like to see, which will probably factor into who you're rooting for today. Well, I guess this weekend, I should
I,
say.
I was about to ask you, Simon, because I'm curious. Is there any team that you really don't want to face in your first round matchup? Obviously, you'll draw whoever the lowest seed is. Is there a scenario that you want to avoid at all costs?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the only teams that they can't play are the Bears, the Eagles. Yeah.
Ram.
Okay. So you don't want the Rams. So you are rooting for an upset somewhere between you want the Niners or the Packers to win.
Well, I mean, you're in luck because the Packers are going to win today. So
So yeah, looks like you'll avoid the Rams. So Anthony changed his profile picture. It's like a rabid raccoon. Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. All right. Um, I mean, look, might as well get into the games now. I feel like everybody's ready to talk about them. We will start with the first game of the day, the Panthers and the Rams, which the highest spread of the weekend. It's now down to 10. I feel like it's honey badger. My bad, my bad. I thought it was a raccoon. Yeah, it is. Okay, it is a honey badger. I respect it. Honey badgers are wild, but Panthers Rams get us kicked off. Rams are a 10-point favorite. I feel like it's slowly come down because I think when it first opened, it was like 12 and a half, I think I saw. That's like 10 and a half. I think yesterday it's now down to 10. Weather could be a factor. I think it's supposed to rain, as Cam Newton let us all know on ESPN yesterday. Does that factor in any way? What do the Panthers have to do to pull the upset? Because I feel like everybody's picking the Rams, except Jory. On the network, Jory has picked the Panthers to win. Panthers did win early in the season, but they, turned over the Rams 3 times. They held time possession 35 minutes to 25 minutes. I guess they kind of have to copy the game plan, but I guess what chance are you giving the Panthers to win today?
I would give them, obviously every game starts out 50-50, right? But I think I'd probably go like 65-35. I definitely like the Rams in this matchup, and the
Yeah.
key to them winning is I think it's really simple. You have to do exactly what you did last time, and that's get Matthew Stafford and the Rams offense to turn the ball over. They picked off Stafford twice. They forced a fumble. They have to be aggressive. They have to force turnovers because if they don't force turnovers, then I don't think it goes very well. They forced 3 and only won by 3 last game. So, like I said, I think this is going to be a game dependent on if the Panthers can get the Rams to commit a couple of dumb errors, and then they have to capitalize on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a fun game, but I think the turnover battle in the Panthers' favor will be key.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, look, I'm picking the Rams as well. I think for the Panthers in this, just go out, play. Obviously, not much on the line for you because nobody's picking you to win. Play free. Be who you are, whatever your identity you want to try to establish. Rico, and then let Bryce Young work off of that. Do that. I think too many instances teams go into situations like this and try to be something that they're not, and then they end up getting blown out. If you're gonna get blown out, doing what you do best, and try to keep time possession. Obviously, to keep that Rams offense off the field as much as you can. And I guess this is an interesting question about where do you utilize Horn? Do you put him on Adams or Puka? I feel like he's your top corner. I think Puka is Matt Stafford's top receiver. Put him on Puka.
I would start him on Puka. I th- I definitely would obviously start him on Puka, and at some point, Puka's Ante would have to take rest, so you have him just shadow the best receiver, whoever's out there. But I think when both of them are out there, I would start him on Puka.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. All right, so we both have the Rams winning, but doesn't take away from the Panthers season, even though they are 8-9. It's been a good building block for Bryce Young, that young team, Ted McMillan, even Canales. Canales is going into this year with his job on the line. He got into the playoffs. You gotta give him credit for that. Oh, before we move on, I know this has been a talking point each year. This happens. Panthers under 500 win the division, get the automatic home game. Do you have a problem with that, or do you think the league should revisit? Because remember, the Lions proposed this past offseason and then pulled it before the vote. Just ranking the teams based off a record. So division win does not guarantee you a home game anymore. Like, which system would you prefer?
You know what's funny? I prefer the division winning. Get to a home game. I love like the importance it kind of brings still to these divisional battles
Mm-hmm.
with the guaranteed home game. I think it's a lot of fun. And in all reality, at the end of the day, like if you're, for example, if you're the Rams, if you can't beat the Panthers on the road, you're
Right.
in a Super Bowl team anyway. If you're so worried about playing some of these teams that you should beat easily on the road, if you can't beat the Panthers on the road, what gives me confidence you can go into Lumen Field and beat the Seahawks on the road or any of these other teams? So
Mm-hmm.
it feels like to me that I'm completely cool with it feels like I'm completely cool with the division winner though, because at the end of the day, if these 8 and 9 teams are so bad, then you shouldn't have any problems beating them.
Sergeant, man, people keep coming for your coach.
Good
'Cause
luck getting me
we were on last night, Passionate Precision, and obviously Jory has her sights set on Kubiak for Tennessee, and Sergeant was trying to keep his guy. I get it. But yeah, I agree. Division winners, give them the home game. It's not that big of a deal for the most part. Obviously, if you're below 500, you're going to be the number 4 seed. So if you're the 5th seed, the top wildcard team, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And because we ain't done yet, I got you. I mean, yeah, I get it. The distractions that can pose during a playoff run. I get where you're coming from, but yeah, it's no problem for me. I wonder if the Lions will propose it again this offseason or if another team does. I'd be interested. I did see an article where they said supposedly, or I guess reportedly, the league actually wants it to change to the proposed way, and they just needed a team to propose it. And it's something that could happen when the league goes to an 18 game regular season because that's going to happen. And they may try to work it in there of taking away the guarantee for division winners, supposedly.
I don't think in all reality too, I don't think the owners would let that happen. You're telling me they can get extra revenue from a home game just by winning the division?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think the owners let that happen. That is their easiest path to getting a home game in a lot of cases. So it's not like every division's a bloodbath. Like for example, the NFC North or West, where every year there's like 3 teams vying for playoff spots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. I thought that was interesting. Uh, see the nightcap tonight. Obviously, a game that you are ready for. Bears Packers round 3, and look, we know before the season, Ben Johnson told me he's going to win it, beat the Packers twice. He technically could live up to his word if he wins the playoff game because he didn't sweep the season series. I think it's another game where weather could be a factor, but I mean, you're talking about Chicago, you're kind of expecting that. obviously you're going to pick the Packers. I'm obviously not going to ask you who you have winning the game. But as a Packers fan, what scares you the most about this matchup with the Bears tonight?
Our defensive line. Ever since Micah Parsons went down, our defensive line has greatly underachieved. That's a big reason. For example, we got blown up by the Ravens. We couldn't get any push.
Mm-hmm.
We're paying Rashawn Gary to $24 million to do cardio out there, and the problem is he's even half-assing the cardio. Like he's jogging, chasing after guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like genuinely, I really need if if Rashawn Gary's not gonna try, like we've seen a lot of effort problems with him. If he's not gonna try this game, I need him to get pulled out of this game like very quick. I don't have a high leash for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just got to go. And I'd rather even see someone like Baron Sorrell, who we're talking about against the Vikings. 5 tackles, a sack, a tackle for loss. He forced a fumble. Oh, sorry, it's Brian Cox that forced the fumble. But I think there are some young guys on this team that produced against the Vikings that I would rather see out there if Rashawn Gary decides that he wants to just not try and just jog
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. Because it's kind of a twofold problem. If the defensive line doesn't get any pressure and they can't do anything, then the secondary is going to mightily struggle as well, right? And this game's going to devolve into a shootout. So I'm confident that we win. I think Jeff Hafley will scheme up some good stuff to get pressure, but I think this game will be decided by which defensive line steps up because the Bears' defensive line also really hasn't been a world beater. So this game just literally might come down to which defensive line steps up the most.
Yeah, I think it's a fair answer. And that is something that I want to see in this game as well, because we've also seen with Caleb Williams that he will use his legs. He also likes to scramble around and then, find guys downfield. So that is going to put a lot of pressure on your defensive front in passing situations to one, be disciplined in their rush lanes, but also because the Bears are kind of committed to the run as well. Those guys up front have to get pushed and push the offensive line back into the backfield to kind of slow down the tandem that they have in the backfield. So I think it's a fascinating matchup because it's a divisional game. It's the third time around. Like anything can happen. I'm also taking the Packers in the game, but I think it's going to be a fun game tonight to watch. And Tapa has a good question here. Is it me or does offensive coordinators get the most recognition for head coaching jobs than defensive coordinators nowadays? Yes, but there are teams out there that obviously are willing to hire defensive coordinators. It's just because it is such an offensive league that that's where a lot of attention goes. It's a quarterback driven league as well. So that's why offensive coordinators usually will get more recognition. But look, we've seen Mike Tomlin with a lot of success. He was a defensive guy, even though his job is in question now or whatever. But Harbaugh, who was in Baltimore all those years, he was a special teams guy, but that's basically defense. Belichick, all those years, he was a defensive guy. Vrabel now. So you can win with a defensive minded head coach. You just have to get one who, not to knock on Rex Ryan, but we know Rex Ryan, defensive minded, his offenses were very basic. Like those types of coaches, I think, are the ones that teams stay away from. But just
I
important,
think,
yeah.
and I think another perspective to look at it from is I think a lot of the reasons teams go for offensive coaches is it's really simple, right? You know who gets normally poached first on a lot of coaching staffs? The offensive coordinator. So, how do you try to somewhat combat that? You get an offensive minded head coach, then you might be able to, bring in his system and have some continuity, even if you
Mm-hmm.
have to fluctuate through coordinators. I think that might be part of the reason behind it at the end of the day. Because obviously you can win with a defensive minded head coach, but I think it makes it slightly more challenging because even if that defensive minded coach goes, okay, let me bring in this really good offensive coordinator, next head coaching cycle, gone. So now you got to bring in another offensive coordinator. And if you nail that one, gone.
Yeah,
So that's just another perspective to look at it as to why teams might tend to lean towards offensive guys rather than defensive.
that's a fair point. Yeah, an offensive minded coach. You take his coordinator, still his system. He can just run it himself. And a lot of defensive minded guys have trouble finding offensive coordinators. So yeah, good point. I like Liam, but I've always been a defensive guy. I would take D'Amico Ryan's type of coach in heartbeat. That's fair. What's
Just
up,
wait,
Damien?
Damien. If they say just wait, I think because if they add an extra, say I wouldn't be shocked if they eventually went to first and second place, got a bye week.
Yeah, yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if instead of taking away the bye week, they added a second one for second place.
yeah. So you'd be doing. So I guess you're bringing in
Another team.
another team, so you have like 3 versus 8, 4 versus 7, 5 versus 6, with 1 and 2 getting a bye. Yeah,
I
yeah,
say
they
because
try to do.
I say we've seen the MLB expand their playoffs. We've seen the NBA expand their playoffs. I wouldn't be shocked if the NFL just all of a sudden went, "Hey, let's say, well, we're going to add a eighth seed." Half the league gets into the playoffs at that point. But I wouldn't be shocked if they went that direction.
Yeah, and look, fans will hate it at first, but they'll eventually come around and still watch the playoff games if you add an extra team.
It's like the seventh seed. Everybody hated it at first,
Yeah.
and now it's just accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they actually do that. All right, so we both got Rams. We both got Packers. Let's look at Sunday's games. I think Sunday's games could be a little bit interesting, and there could be some differing in opinion. The first game Sunday, we get Trevor Lawrence and the Jags versus Josh Allen and the Bills. Interesting stat about this is for as great of a quarterback as we view Josh Allen as, he's never won a road playoff game. So he's 0-4. He'll have his fifth opportunity to finally get his first win. For Jacksonville, this is a situation they haven't been in a couple of years. Yeah, they have that playoff win over the Chargers a couple of years ago, but they've had some down years since then, and now they're kind of back up. And for Trevor Lawrence, it would be good for him to obviously get a couple of wins. Former number one pick. It was a big year for him coming off a down year last year. Both teams, I remember the stat, I had it last night. Bills are the number one rushing offense. James Cook, Josh Allen. The Jags are the number one rush defense. So does Joe Brady try to establish the run, or does it turn to a shootout because both teams are like top 5 in scoring offense? What direction do you think this game goes in? A shootout, a low scoring kind of butting of heads of trying to run on each other? Like, how do you think this game goes?
I think it'll be a low scoring game. I think it'll be a lower scoring game than a lot of people thought. Because I don't think either team's just going to all of a sudden up and abandon the run. And both teams are very good at defending the run.
Mm-hmm.
So while I do think there will be more adjustments and you'll see both teams pass maybe more than they normally did throughout the season. So, hey, you know what? May the best team win. But you know what? I'm confident in my Packers to pull it out tonight. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I do think that this will be a pretty low scoring game. Maybe like a 20-17 kind of affair.
Okay. What's going on, Mud Bugs? Look, I get it. You're a Bears fan. So, what's your score prediction, Mud Bugs, for tonight? Damien asked if it was fair for Gannon to be fired, basically saying not his fault that Kyler Murray was his quarterback. I think the DeMarcado thing was probably the end of Gannon's tenure there. Okay. Well, all right. I guess we go in Madden style with that. But yes, I mean you can't blame him necessarily for Kyler Murray not living up to his draft positioning. But when you look at a lot of coaches that get fired, a lot of times they get fired because quarterback play just wasn't up to par. And Gannon was Gannon a defensive minded guy? I know he came from the Eagles. I think was Steichen was the OC and Gannon was the DC.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a defensive coordinator, it is tough when I guess your offensive decisions get you fired. But if you look at the Arizona team, could you really justify Gannon getting another year? Probably not. So I think it was fair that he got fired because I assumed he was going to get fired. I guess would be my answer to that.
And you also kind of got to look who's available in the coaching cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of good options, a lot of fun options this coaching cycle that might not be there next year. So you might as well just, if Gannon's not your guy, better to cut bait early and just jump into the coaching cycle. If you have confidence in the candidates that are there right now,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't think Gannon's a guy, yeah, I mean, it might be somewhat unfair, but unfortunately, sometimes being a head coach in the NFL isn't fair. Just cut bait with Gannon and go get your guy who you think is going to be your long-term answer.
Okay, so Mudbugs has it. Well, I just want to let you know what's going on, Nakari. Giving you some
I like
Packers
Nakari.
backup. You had a lot of Bears coming in. All right, so actual question: do the Bears have a weakness in their defense? Felt like the Lions ran all over them. What do you think?
Yes. So here's the thing. If you guys are new here, it's funny. I'm a Packers fan. However, I do everything in my power to remain unbiased. Before the season started, I told everybody Caleb Williams would be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, and the Bears would be a lot better than people thought this year. But when it comes to the Bears defense, it's very turnover reliant. Their defensive line isn't great. I know Montez Sweat can pressure the quarterback, but outside of him, you're not really cooking with a whole lot of gas. And the secondary is very turnover dependent, but they can give up yards in chunks. We've seen the Packers take advantage of that once this year. We've seen these defensive line get pushed around, and if they can't get pressure, quarterbacks have a lot of time and can run against them. I do think that the Bears obviously are a very good team. They won the North for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
but you can move the ball against this defense. The big thing with the Bears is they need to force turnovers, and the other thing they actually have done a good job at this year is bend but don't break. Once you get into the end zone, their defense does tighten up a lot. So, yeah, this defense does have weaknesses. It's flawed, especially I think on the defensive line and to an extent the secondary. But I also think that this defense does a very good job. Once you get inside the 20, then they really know how to put the clamps on you there.
All right. Top of pulling receipts. Damian has faith in Caleb Williams. Shocked because that is true. A lot of the season, Damian was like Justin Fields is better. So, Damian, you got an answer to that one now. Hey, appreciate that. Caleb hasn't shown he's a top 10 quarterback. Say he's gotten better these last few weeks. Okay, so I guess Damian's softening his stance on Caleb Williams now. Yeah, look, I agree. I think the Bears are definitely heading in the right direction. They made a lot of improvements this year. I'm I don't know. Look, I know you did say Caleb Williams would be a top 10 quarterback probably early in the season. I was a little skeptical of it. I don't necessarily know if he's top 10 now, but he's definitely proven that, you know, he is the guy to build around in Chicago. I think Ben Johnson bringing him in has done a lot for his game. And yeah, I'm excited to see, I guess, where the Bears kind of go from here. Because, I mean, Damien can attest to this. I'm sure Mudbugs can as well. the Cutler years and then, like Kyle Orton and stuff like that, it's been kind of rough in Chicago. So Caleb Williams is finally that guy who, 10, 15 years from now, we go, best quarterback in Chicago Bears history, and there's no doubt about it, it's Caleb Williams. Then good for them. I know Gene's asked that question before, best quarterback in Bears history, and the answer used to be with what? Jim McMahon, and Jim McMahon wasn't even a great quarterback.
Say Jay Cutler,
And Jay
Jim
Cutler, we
McMahon.
know.
No, it's one of those things. Before the season starts every year for fun, I do a predictive list trying to guess how every single quarterback's gonna
Mhm.
where they're gonna rank at the end of the year.
Yep.
And I'll be the first to tell you, I had some big misses. I think 31 and 32 this year. I predicted that Daniel Jones and Tyler Shuck would be the two worst quarterbacks in the NFL. Turns out I was way off on that. But that being said, one of my more prouder ones was Caleb. And I think if you're a Bears fan, what more can you really ask from Caleb Williams? Like, if you don't think he's a top 10 quarterback, he's 11. He almost passed for 4K yards, the first quarterback in Bears history to do so. He was
Mhm.
like 53 yards away. He's been efficient. He doesn't turn the football over. Like, at the end of the day, if you're a Bears fan, I don't know how you can be anything but excited for Caleb Williams. He's clearly trending towards being the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. And honestly, give me like three more years like this, and he probably just takes the cake. So yeah, no, I think if you're a Bears fan, you have every right to be excited at the current direction that the Bears are trending.
Last good quarterback we ever had was Kyle Orton. Well, that's an indictment on the state of the Bears. Like, Kyle Orton, man. All right. Uh, we didn't even get predictions. So, I guess who do you have winning Jags and Bills?
I got the Bills. I think it'll be
Okay.
close. I'm gonna lean experience here. It'll be a lot of first timers in this magnitude of a game for the Jaguars, and I think that does matter, especially where, and I think in a game like this, the margins for error razor thin, and I think that really matters in a game like this. I think it's going to be 23-20 Bills. I think it'll be a fun, close game. However, I want to give the Jags credit for the second half of the season. They have been the best team in football, and I'm not even kidding. They have had top five offense, top five defense. They've been unstoppable in the second half of the season. So if they come out and they just beat Buffalo, I don't think it'd be considered an upset, like some people are saying.
Mm-hmm. Jamie has the Jags winning. Okay. Yeah, I have the Bills as well. I think Josh Allen gets his first road playoff win. And look, I think what makes this matchup so interesting is the fact that Josh Allen obviously has a lot of pressure on him with, no Burrow, Mahomes, and Lamar. We get that. Trevor Lawrence has some pressure on him himself as well because of the fact, like you said, they're seen as probably one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence is a former number one pick. Coming out of Clemson, people said he was can't miss. Well, if you're gonna hold that standard, this is a game you probably should win at home against a Bills team that probably isn't as good as the Bills teams of the past couple of seasons. They're still a dangerous team, but this is a game that you probably should win. And for Liam Cohen and the job that he's done, got to give him a lot of credit for it. But I mean, Topic, you're in here because you said Trevor has to prove you wrong. I guess would you be disappointed if the Bills won, or would you kind of consider the year still a successful year, knowing the fact that they won the division and all of that?
I feel like if you're Jacksonville, like regardless of what happens, it was a good year for you. Like they're a team that a lot of like you really didn't know about. They weren't great last year. If they were like 9-8 this year and barely beat the division, barely snuck out a division win, you probably would have been like, oh, okay, improvement in the right direction. But the fact they went above and beyond and won the division convincingly, and
Mm-hmm.
Trevor Lawrence elevated his game, and not only that, you got guys like Devin Lloyd, Hines Allen, like you had a lot of guys elevate their games for you. I think regardless of what happens this weekend, they could go in and they could lose 27-3. I think regardless of what happens, this was a fantastic year for Jacksonville, and don't let people tell you otherwise.
Yeah. Success, yeah, exceeding my expectations. If Harbaugh wins the Super Bowl with another team before the Ravens do, can we finally put the Lamar excuses to rest already? Uh See, now that's an interesting
Yep.
question because
The
Lamar fans
Belichick
will
big
tell
debate.
you, well, Lamar fans will tell you Josh Allen, Herbert, guys like that get more excuses. Damien's telling us Lamar's getting all these excuses, and whether or not Harbaugh winning the Super Bowl somewhere else. I think the major thing to take with Lamar in Baltimore, I'm of the mindset that they may have missed their window to win a Super Bowl. So I honestly don't know if Lamar gets one in Baltimore. And look, obviously, I've been named a Ravens hater, which is fair. But Lamar isn't getting any younger. I feel like he's starting to get kind of banged up more and more. And if he loses enough of his athleticism, I would worry about how effective he would be as a quarterback. Plus, you're not going to get Derrick Henry forever. And I feel like they've wasted kind of the couple really good years that they've had with him and then have gone on to the playoffs and questionable decisions with his usage. I also need to know where Harbaugh lands throughout this whole coaching carousel because that's going to depend. That'll determine, I guess, how quickly he probably gets back to a Super Bowl kind of level. So it could be we're waiting a while for both of them. That's fair, Tapa. I don't think Tomlin has excuses either. The man's been like coaching for his job the last 5 years. Like Steelers fans have been done with him, but then he overachieves with another team that were like, oh, this is the year they finished below 500. Look at this year. A lot of people predicted they were going to finish like third, maybe even last in that division. They somehow get 10 wins with 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers.
So it just feels like that at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin's still a great coach. But if they get blown out against the Texans, for example, it might be time for him to be a great coach somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like he keeps doing these things like getting into the playoffs, and people want to go, well, he hasn't won a playoff game in like a decade. Well,
Yeah,
about a
eventually he
decade
does have to
ago,
win. Yeah, he does have to win a playoff game.
here's my counter to that because I think there's something that people miss with that. About a decade ago is when the last time he actually had a Super Bowl caliber team was, or
Mm-hmm.
even half the time a playoff caliber team. That like he has gotten some very like uninspiring teams to the playoffs, and it's truly impressive. Like I genuinely still think that at the end of the day, he's still a very good coach, and I think he's proven that. It's just one of those things. It's like the Andy Reid and Philly situations. Just might need a new voice in the locker room, and he just might need to, have his voice heard somewhere else.
Yeah, because there are reports that there's like TV networks that have kind of deals in waiting for Tomlin whenever he decides to kind of step away from coaching. I think Tomlin would be. I think Tomlin would be interesting on TV. I think he has like the personality and everything to be really good at that. Uh,
But that's not being a head coach. That's being a GM.
right.
Like drafting isn't part of the head coaching requirement there, and he still had a winning record with Kenny Pickett somehow. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the part that's impressive, right? Like we've seen Kenny Pickett play football. He's not a good quarterback. He's at best an average one, but I
Mm-hmm.
would say he's a below average quarterback. And Mike Tomlin was still winning games with Kenny Pickett. So, like I said, the head coaching stuff I don't think really can be argued. That's the thing. If you want to question whether his voice is still fully heard in the locker room, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about that, but The results on the field speak for themselves, especially with a lot of mediocre teams.
And I would question the whole voice of the locker room thing, but to me, it's the fact that he keeps overachieving seems like he's talking guys up and getting them to play above their head. So that's got to mean something. Like if he was doing remember it was like that year when the Eagles brought in a bunch of free agents and they called it, and like people were like the greatest team ever assembled, and then they underachieved. If the Steelers are doing stuff like that, I'd say yeah, Tomlin's voice has gotten stale. But it seems like it's not gotten stale. It's just that for whatever reason they get to the playoffs, and then whether it's a bad matchup or whatever, they just can't seem to win a playoff game. And I mean, last year you got Russell Wilson and Justin Fields you were trying to win a playoff game with. Look, I know Damian, cover your ears. You love Justin Fields. Tall task with two. Now this year you do have Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he's 42, but I had to give him credit. He played really well against Baltimore in a game that they really needed. So there will be a challenge, which I mean, we could actually go into that game now. The Texans and the Steelers, even though that is the Monday night game. But since we're talking Steelers, let's just talk about the game. They have a challenge. Like, if Pittsburgh loses to Houston, we would probably say, yeah, that defensive line and the front seven probably got after Aaron Rodgers all day. And we'd be like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But Houston's offense is, I don't say it's bad, but it's unpredictable to the point that if you told me the game was like 13-10, fourth quarter, 5 minutes to go, Rodgers has the ball in his hands and he takes them down and they win 17-13, I'd be like, I could see that happening too. So I wouldn't want to, necessarily crucify Tomlin if they lose yet another playoff game on Wild Card Weekend, because I think Houston's a tough opponent. But he does eventually have to win a playoff game. Like, that's kind of crazy for as good of a coach he is. So once again, looking at that game, who do you have winning it, and I guess why?
So I think this is going to be a tall task for the Steelers to pull it off, but I did predict a Pittsburgh Steelers upset because I think that Steelers defense can muck up the Texans offense. The offense has been wildly inconsistent all
Mm-hmm.
year. We're talking about they ended the year as the 17th ranked offense, but that was after an ice cold start. Then they got hot. Then they ran back cold, and they've heated up to end the year. But I think that will be their Achilles heel. I think this will be a really ugly, low scoring game. Like this game might end up being like 13-10, and I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
But I think if it's a close game, I'm going to take my chances on Aaron Rodgers putting together one final drive to win it all. I think
Okay.
that I think this will be a fun one. I think it'll be fun if you like defenses, but I think this will be a stupid low scoring game. I don't necessarily trust the Texans that much. I trust their defense, but I think their offense is going to turn the ball over a couple times, and that will ultimately be the difference maker.
Okay. Like, I oddly think this could turn into like a old school AFC North type of game. I think both teams, you could see some hard hitting and a lot of frustration from both CJ Stroud and Aaron Rodgers. I'm taking the Texans in this one. I just think the defense will do enough. And, the offense for Houston, I get it where all the questions are. The offensive line, I feel like played better later in the year, but there's still questions about how good they actually are. And now you're going up against TJ Watt on the edge. You have Cam Hayward up the middle, who, look, he's long in the tooth, but he still gets it done. So if they can't contain those two, then yeah, Houston's gonna have a lot of issues moving the ball. And look, this could be a game that comes down to who gets a defensive touchdown, because we could very well see one in this game. But I'm gonna take Houston, and I actually look at Houston as an interesting team. If they get past Pittsburgh, they're a team that could make the AFC Championship game because of that defense. But because of the offense, they could lose today, and You're just wondering about, if they fix that O line, how good of a team they actually could have been. I'm gonna take the Houston today. Well, Monday. Okay, Damien, I get it. Um,
Damien's worst nightmare, the Jordan Love Aaron Rodgers Super Bowl.
oh, Damien, man, look, if that happened, that would be rough for him. Oh man. All right, so we did Jags, Bills. All right, so we have Eagles, Niners, the middle game on Sunday. And obviously, if Gene were here, we already know he probably would be on Eagles. If Godfrey was here, probably going Eagles. But neither of us are Eagles or 49ers fans. I think this is an interesting matchup because both fan bases hate each other. They ask, what's going on, Xander?
It's good,
Um,
Xander.
both organizations they just hate each other for was it Super Bowl a couple of years ago. The Niners were when they were down to like Christian McCaffrey throwing passes. They were like, if we had our quarterback, we would have won. Eagles fans were calling them crybabies. Well, they meet up yet again. Wild card weekend tomorrow, 4:30. The 49ers have battled through injuries. Week 18, they had a chance at the number one seed. The Eagles have battled through a lot of criticism, a lot of drama, but they won the NFC East. Kevin Patullo is under the spotlight. If that man screws this up with a weak offensive game plan, he might be the most hated man in Philadelphia already. Like he would need a police escort to get home. How do you see this one playing out? Do the Eagles figure it out offensively and look like the team that we know they could be based on the roster on paper? Or are the 49ers just that team that maybe flew under the radar a little bit and get the win here on the road?
I think the Eagles do win this one. I think the injuries are going to catch up to the 49ers. I do think it's close.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust Kevin Patullo to put together a game plan that'll blow out the 49ers. On the flip side, I trust Robert Saleh to keep the 49ers in this game. So I think that this will be close, good old fashioned, like, say, like 27-24 affair. I think it'll
Mm-hmm.
be a fun back and forth game. But I do think that at a certain point, the injuries will catch up to the 49ers. And I think that's going to be tomorrow. I think
If the
you're going to
Eagles
get
lose, yeah.
I think you're going to get a fast start from the Eagles, Salah, Justin. It's going to be another game. It's kind of like what we've seen from the Eagles a lot this year. First half, they'll look great. Second half, adjustments, then it just all goes downhill from there. I think we'll see something very similar to what we've seen all year.
Okay. Yeah. Um, Look, yeah, because if Patula does struggle, a guy like Mike McDaniels might be sitting on his couch, waiting for that phone to ring. Because I do think the Eagles are ready to move off of Patullo, and there's a lot of offensive-minded guys out there that they could go get for a team where Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I know a lot of people question how good he is, but he's a winner. Got AJ Brown, you got Smith, you got Barkley. Like you have a lot to work with there. And for whatever reason, Patullo just hasn't been able to make it look good. But look, maybe he's just been holding back, and now in the playoffs we see a completely different game plan. I have the Eagles winning as well. I actually think it's going to be another game where Eagles fans will be frustrated with Patullo, but I think they find a way to win it. At this point, that's just kind of how it is. They'll eke one out. People will hate Patullo, but they move on. Could see Kingsbury as Eagles OC. I mean, if he doesn't get a head coaching job, I could see that as well. All right, so that leaves, since we already did the Monday night game, Sunday night game is the last game we have to talk about. My boy
See,
Drake May, Mike Vrabel, at home, have the Chargers going cross country with Herbert, broken left hand, Jim Harbaugh, the better Harbaugh. Still has a job, but I think it's an interesting matchup. The Patriots like to throw the ball with Drake May. The Chargers have a really good secondary. So which strength wins out in that one? It may come down to if they can get like second half Ramondre Stevenson, who's looked really good after the fumbling issues early in the year, and Travion Henderson looks really good at the running back position. Can they, run on this Chargers team? We'll see. But yeah, who do you have in this one? Because look, Justin Herbert's got some pressure on himself. He needs a playoff win. Last two times we've seen him in the playoffs and he lost, he threw four interceptions to the Texans, and then we already know about the Jags game where looked great in the first half. Second half was a complete mess. So who do you have winning this one?
All right, so you didn't have to do John dirty like that one. Come on now.
I mean, look, now
I
that
mean,
but here's the crazy thing, now that John Harbaugh is like out of Baltimore, I actually don't hate him as much. Like I hope he finds a job and he can be happy. It's just the fact that he was in Baltimore, I couldn't stand him. The times where he would get mad at Belichick and the Patriots for their funky formations that he swore was against the rules, and Belichick had to. I think it was Brady was like, "Go read the rule book," and then Baltimore using the same formations the next year. Like it was hilarious to me.
I think the answer to this is easy. It's going to be the New England Patriots, and I'll give you a couple names why. Let's play a fun game of where do they rank,
Mm-hmm.
PFF style. Bradley Bozeman, their starting center. Out of the 40 centers that qualify, where do you think Bozeman ranked among centers this year?
I guess the easy thought would be to think he's like number 40. I'll say he's number 36.
You were right the first time. He was 40 out of 40.
Okay.
Say, let's go to Mekhi Becton. I'm sorry, say not Mekhi. Say, let's go to Mekhi Becton. 81 available guards. Where do you think he ranked?
I guess we'll say 81.
Close, 79.
Okay.
And why don't we finish out the right side of the line with Bobby Hart? Out of 89 available tackles or qualified tackles, what do you think he ranked?
I mean, he's like the third string tackle. I'll give him some credit. Let's say he's 88.
Close, 82nd out of 89. That's why they're going to lose. I don't think this. Justin Herbert's going to get a lot of blame for this game when they lose, right? And you're going to blame the quarterback. That's kind of the first instinct.
Mm-hmm.
But that right side of the line is so wrecked. I think that the Patriots are just going to get pressure in his face all game, and with a broken, not even non-throwing hand,
Yeah.
I just don't see how they pull this one off. I think the difference is just going to be they're just going to bring pressure onto that right side and completely overwhelm Justin Herbert and pretty much just shut this offense down.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game could very well end up being a blowout. I want to give the Chargers and Herbert some credit because they've been defying the odds all year. So I will say that they keep it to like within a touchdown, and the Patriots pull a touchdown late to pull it away. Maybe like one of those 20 close, say like a 28-14 affair, but I don't think this game will be all that close. And I think the biggest problem starts with injuries on the line just have completely zapped this team. And in a situation like this, I think it's just all over for him, especially going against Rabel. He's going to have some diabolical blitz packages dialed up.
Yeah, and look, you mentioned the O line for the Chargers, and that's where Milton Williams coming back is a big deal because with Milton Williams there, Christian Barmore plays a lot better. And Barmore's going to be lined up over that center guard gap. He's a guy who gets a lot of pressure right at the middle, and we know quarterbacks hate that. And we also know the secondary. You have Carlton Davis, you have Christian Gonzalez, guys who can cover and make plays on the ball. So I agree. I have the Patriots winning, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's a guarantee because first start for Drake May, we never know what he'll look like, but he's kind of been defying the odds all season. So I'm expecting him to play kind of the way he has as the, MVP candidate that he's turned himself into.
So I think with Drake May, I don't even think you need him to throw the ball that much this game. Like literally just run the ball, take care of the football. Just obviously don't go full like conservative, but I think you'll see a more maybe conservative game plan. Keep Justin Herbert and the offense off the field and just dominate the time of possession. Because at the end of the day, what do you want to do? You want to wear out the defense. I think they're going to dominate on defense themselves, and if you wear out the Chargers defense, at some point they're going to break. And I kind of think Vrabel knows that too, and I think that's what ends up happening this game.
Yeah, and that's why Will Campbell coming back late in the year was so big because they like running to his side. And, Ramondre Stevenson, as I mentioned before, has had a bit of a resurgence. And to me, it's like he's looked a little faster. He's got the uh, ball security issues kind of figured out. And I definitely love what I'm seeing from him. 12-hour street wire to wire. Uh, I'm not planning on doing that, but hey, we'll
I,
see how
I,
the day goes.
I wish, but I work at like in an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
12-hour stream would be nuts. Um, but yeah, look, those are the matchups. I guess before we get out of here, gonna have to ask this: your Super Bowl matchup. Who you have?
uh,
Well, okay, because your Packers are in it. Obviously, you'd have the Packers. So I'll say, what's your Packers Super Bowl matchup, and then what's your, I guess, other one that you would have if the Packers lost?
I'm gonna give you three. Obviously, despite just to mess with Damian and Packers Steelers.
Okay.
Um, in all seriousness, if the Packers make the Super Bowl, I'm picking Packers Bills.
Okay.
My non-Packers Super Bowl, it's an intriguing idea. I'm gonna go with a Super Bowl rematch, Kyle. I'm gonna go with your Patriots against the Seattle Seahawks. You and Sijin are gonna have to beat for about a week, but I think that's all right.
Okay. Hey, I'm here for it. So Damien, 12 hours wouldn't be enough for you, huh? Okay, I got you. So Damien's going Bears Patriots Super Bowl rematch. Yep. I mean, it's a rematch that's so long ago that a lot of Patriots, no, well, not Patriots fans, but a lot of football fans probably wouldn't even know that they met up back in what 85, 86, one of those years. I don't know. Okay, so for me, oddly enough, my Patriots Super Bowl matchup would actually be Patriots Seahawks as well. I think I think before the season, I actually remembered because last night I was trying to remember my matchup for vibes was Ravens Seahawks. Mike McDaniel, former Ravens defensive coordinator, leads his new team in against his old team, but Ravens aren't there, so can't use that one anymore. So I think the vibe matchup would be Bills Eagles. Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. We'll go with that one. I think a fun one would be like Houston Green Bay.
I I do think Bills Eagles would be a ton of fun just because like can you imagine like Santa Clara having to try to contain the Eagles and Bills fan bases in the same area? Like that
Yeah,
just sounds like a mess. And
yeah.
it sounds great.
Seattle needs it after the Mariners. Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Seattle's still reeling from that one, as we noticed, because Ando, who does Sports Report, I love throwing that out there that the Mariners collapsed, and he loses it every time I mention it. Uh, it's just, I always mix up whether it was 85 or 86. I know when it happened. Yeah. That was just a crazy look. That Bears defense, we still look at it today as one of the greatest defenses ever assembled.
It's always funny how I do. You know what's kind of funny though? You can make a strong argument that the '86 Bears defense is actually even better than the '85 Bears defense.
I
The
know.
Bears,
Yeah.
obviously, the '85 gets remembered because they won the Super Bowl, but you can argue that the next year they came back even better, but it's just not as remembered because
Yeah.
they didn't win the big one.
Yeah. That's actually kind of crazy. Yeah, look, that's all we got for you. Oh, I guess one last thing. MVP. Is it Stafford or is it May?
I still think I think it's going to end up being Stafford.
Okay, I got May. I'm going with my guy.
Oh, hey, I get it though. If Jordan Love was in your spot, I'd be like, hell yeah, it's Jordan Love all the way. Let's go.
Yeah. No, I mean I get it. Look, I'm not gonna sit here and be like Stafford doesn't deserve it. Like Stafford's had a really good year. Like that's actually crazy the kind of year he's had. I just feel like in a lot of categories, May has been better. So that's the only reason why I'm saying May.
Oh,
That's
I
tough.
might have to go with that 2000s Ravens defense. You,
I do appreciate that Ravens defense. Like Ed Reed, like covered everybody. If you floated the ball anywhere downfield, somehow Ed Reed was always in the area and picked it off. Ray Lewis just laying guys out over the middle. And even
my
the
my
defensive line, you feel like you don't really talk much about like how dominant they were. I probably would go 2000 Ravens.
I think my favorite like elite defense that I was actually able to really grow up, watch, and appreciate might have been the no fly zone. That
Mm-hmm.
2015 Broncos defense was special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm.
even even if like even if they were going to vote a defensive player MVP, it wouldn't be Miles. He broke the sack record, which is awesome, but there's no way they'd give the MVP to a
Yeah.
player on the last place Browns.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, I feel like we would love to see a point where MVP isn't automatically a quarterback award, but that's just where we are right now.
I think the last time you can argue a defensive player could have won MVP was 2014 when JJ Watt had that insane year, and
Mm-hmm.
he also had like 3 receiving
Yeah.
touchdowns.
Yeah. So if he couldn't win it then, yeah, it's hard to see Miles Garrett just getting it this year. But I don't know. I don't know why it's just turned into a quarterback award because the way the NFL kind of spins it is MVP for the quarterback. They'll give offensive player of the year to like a running back or wide receiver or something that's like supposed to be their MVP. And then DPOY is supposed to be like your defensive player MVP, I guess. So
I'm
that's
just
just the
glad
way
they're
it is.
finally coming out a word for linemen.
Yeah, that's it's a thankless job.
You're not wrong. Rodgers did win the MVP in the JJ Watt year. He literally was the reason why JJ Watt was an MVP that year.
All right, yeah. So, um, yeah, that's all we had for you. We wanted to do a little Saturday edition. Still got a couple hours before the games kick off. So, if you want to be like, what was Homeboy's name in here? Who's high as a kite? Go ahead and live your life, man. But yeah, appreciate all of you that were in the comments. We always do. And enjoy the games this weekend. We will be back. I don't know if we'll do Thursday or maybe we'll do another Saturday one next week. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how schedules line up and everything. But we will be back next week, obviously, to talk about Wildcard Weekend and get you ready for Divisional Weekend in the NFL. It's not that much left in the season. I know it's sad. We'll blink. It'll be time for the game in Santa Clara. We'll be crowning a new champion. But for myself, Brett, not guarding the 2, guarding the 3. We're out of here. We'll see y'all next week. All right. Bye.